My name is Melvina Chase, and I'm 67 years old. For 30 years, I had only one real friend, Dovie Marshall. We met in our 30s, raised our children together, supported each other through divorces, job losses, and every struggle life threw at us. Dovie was the sister I never had, my closest confidant, the person I trusted with my deepest secrets. And for the past 2 years, she's been systematically stealing my life. She moved into my neighborhood, started dating my ex-husband, befriended my children and turned them against me, took over my position at the charity I founded, even wore clothes identical to mine and copied my hairstyle. Everyone told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that Dovie was just being a good friend who admired me. But last week, at my daughter's wedding, the wedding Dovie helped plan without telling me, I finally revealed the truth. I stood up during the reception, walked to the microphone, and showed everyone the evidence I'd been collecting for 2 years. Text messages, photos, financial records, witness statements, everything. And Dovie's smile, that confident, smug smile she'd been wearing all evening, vanished completely. She went pale, then red, then tried to run, but I wasn't finished. "Sit down, Dovie," I said calmly into the microphone. "We're not done yet, not by a long shot." The look of horror on her face, as she realized I knew everything, I'll never forget it. But to understand how we got to this moment, how my best friend became my worst enemy, I need to take you back to where it all began. I met Dovie in 1995 at a PTA meeting at our children's elementary school. I was 37, recently divorced, struggling to raise my 2 children, Zenobia, age 8, and Royal, age 6, on a secretary's salary. Dovie was 39, also divorced with one daughter, Artie, age 9. She was warm, funny, and immediately made me feel welcome. "Girl, these PTA meetings are something else," Dovie whispered to me during a particularly boring budget presentation. "You'd think we were planning world peace instead of a bake sale." I laughed, and just like that, we became friends. Over the next few years, Dovie and I became inseparable. Our kids played together. We had dinner at each other's houses. We went to movies, took walks, shared our struggles and dreams. When I got laid off from my secretary job in 1998, Dovie let me stay in her guest room for 3 months until I found new work. When her mother died in 2001, I sat with her every night for a week while she grieved. When my daughter Zenobia got pregnant at 17 in 2004, Dovie was the first person I called. "We'll get through this," Dovie assured me. "Your grandbaby is going to be loved and supported. That's what matters." She was my rock, my sister, my best friend. For 30 years, I never questioned our friendship, never doubted her loyalty. I should have been more careful. The first strange thing happened 3 years ago, in 2022. I'd been volunteering at a local women's shelter called Hope House for 15 years. I'd worked my way up from volunteer to coordinator to assistant director. The work was meaningful, helping women escape domestic violence, rebuild their lives, find housing and jobs. The director, Sterling Matthews, was planning to retire. He told me privately that he was recommending me as his replacement. "Melvina, you've earned this," Sterling said. "You know these women, you understand the work, you're the natural choice." I was thrilled. Becoming director would mean better pay, more influence, and the ability to help even more women. I told Dovie about it over coffee. "That's amazing," Dovie said, hugging me. "You absolutely deserve it. When does Sterling make the official announcement?" "Next month at the board meeting," I said. "I'm so proud of you," Dovie said. 2 weeks later, Dovie called me. "Melvina, I hope you don't mind, but I started volunteering at Hope House," she said. "Your work there sounds so fulfilling. I want to be part of it too." "Of course I don't mind," I said. "That's wonderful, we can work together." It seemed sweet at the time, a friend wanting to support my passion. But over the next month, something changed. Dovie threw herself into the volunteer work with intense energy. She showed up every day, took on extra projects, stayed late, made herself indispensable. She also started dressing like me. We'd always had different styles. I preferred simple, comfortable clothes in earth tones. Dovey usually wore bright colors and bold patterns. But suddenly, Dovey was showing up in outfits almost identical to mine. Same style, same colors, even similar hairstyles. "Girl, we're like twins," Dovey would joke. At first, I thought it was flattering. Then it started feeling strange. And then came the board meeting. Sterling stood up to announce his retirement and his recommendation for the new director. "I'm recommending Dovey Marshall for the position," Sterling said. I felt like I'd been slapped. Dovey has shown exceptional dedication, fresh ideas, and the energy needed to take Hope House to the next level, Sterling continued. I looked at Dovey. She was smiling, accepting congratulations, acting surprised, but her eyes met mine for just a second. And in that second, I saw something that chilled me. Not guilt, not apology. Triumph. After the meeting, I pulled Sterling aside. "Sterling, you told me you were recommending me," I said. "What changed?" "Melvina, you're wonderful," Sterling said uncomfortably. But Dovey brought such enthusiasm and new perspectives. The board felt she was the better choice for this moment. "Did Dovey know you were planning to recommend me?" I asked. Sterling hesitated. "She may have mentioned that you'd talked about it, but that didn't influence." "It did influence," I interrupted. "She knew I wanted this position, so she swept in and took it." "That's not fair, Melvina," Sterling said. "Dovey earned this on her own merit." I wanted to argue, but what could I say? That my best friend had betrayed me. That sounded paranoid and bitter. So I swallowed my hurt and congratulated Dovey. "I'm so happy for you," I lied. "Thank you," Dovey said, hugging me. "I couldn't have done it without your inspiration. You paved the way for me." The words sounded kind, but something in her tone felt mocking. After the Hope House incident, I started noticing a pattern. 6 months later, my ex-husband Homer, whom I'd divorced 15 years earlier but remained on friendly terms with, started dating someone new. That someone was Dovey. "Melvina, I hope this isn't weird," Homer said when he told me, "but Dovey and I have been spending time together and we're dating now." "You're dating my best friend?" I asked, shocked. "Ex-best friend, technically," Homer said. "You two aren't as close as you used to be, right?" That was true. After the Hope House situation, I'd pulled back from the friendship. I still saw Dovey at events and gatherings, but I'd created distance. "How did you even meet her?" I asked. "She reached out to me," Homer said. "Said she was worried about you, wanted to understand your perspective on our divorce to be a better friend. We started talking and one thing led to another." My stomach turned. Dovey had actively pursued my ex-husband under the guise of being supportive of me. "Are you okay with this?" Homer asked. "I value your opinion, Melvina, if this makes you uncomfortable." "Date whoever you want, Homer," I said. "We're divorced. Your personal life is none of my business." But inside, I was reeling. First my job opportunity, now my ex-husband. What was Dovey doing? The next target was my children. Zenobia, now 36 with a 15-year-old son named Judge, had always been close to me. We talked daily, had lunch every week, and shared everything. Then Dovey started inserting herself into Zenobia's life. "Mom, Dovey invited me to lunch," Zenobia mentioned casually. "That's nice," I said, though alarm bells were ringing. Over the next few months, those lunches became regular. Dovey started giving Zenobia advice about parenting Judge, about her marriage, about her career. Advice that contradicted what I'd been telling her. "Mom, Dovey says I'm too strict with Judge," Zenobia told me one day. "She thinks I should give him more freedom." "Judge is 15, I said. "He needs structure and boundaries. We've talked about this." "I know, but Dovey raised Artie as a single mom too, and Artie turned out great," Zenobia said. "Maybe her approach would work better." It was subtle, but the message was clear. Dovey's advice was better than mine. The same thing happened with Royal, now 34 and working as a teacher. Royal had always come to me for advice about his career, his relationships, his life decisions. Suddenly, he was going to Dovey instead. Dovey suggested I apply for that department head position, Royal told me. She thinks I'd be great at it. I thought you didn't want the stress of administration, I said. You told me you love teaching and don't want to give it up. I did say that, Royal admitted. But Dovey made some good points about career advancement and financial security. Maybe I should reconsider. Within a year, both my children were closer to Dovey than to me. They called her for advice, invited her to family events, treated her opinions as more valid than mine. And Dovey, she soaked it up. She posted photos on social media with my children, calling them my bonus kids. She attended judges' school events. She gave royal career advice. She was becoming the mother to my children. 1 year ago, Dovey did something that finally made the pattern undeniable. She moved. For 30 years, Dovey had lived 15 miles away from me, in a different neighborhood. It was close enough for frequent visits, but far enough that we had separate lives. Then Dovey bought a house, 2 doors down from mine. Surprise, Dovey said when she showed up at my door. We're neighbors now, isn't this perfect? We can see each other every day. You bought a house on my street, I asked, trying to hide my horror. I know, I couldn't believe it when this house came on the market, Dovey said. It felt like fate, like we were meant to be closer. Did you know I lived here when you bought it? I asked carefully. Of course, Dovey said brightly. That's why I wanted it. Imagine we can have coffee every morning, watch each other's houses, be there for each other every single day, just like sisters. My children thought it was wonderful. Mom, isn't it great that Dovey's nearby? Zenobia said. She can help you with things, keep you company. I don't need company, I said. I'm fine on my own. Mom, you're 65 years old, Royal said. It's good to have someone looking out for you. Looking out for me, or watching me. Because that's what it felt like. Every time I left my house, Dovey was there. Just happened to be getting her mail. Just happened to be watering her plants. She knew my schedule, my routines, where I went and when. She was studying me. 6 months ago, I decided to start something new, a charity to help elderly women living alone. Many women in their 60s and 70s, like me, were isolated. Their children had moved away. Their friends had died or relocated. They lived alone in houses too big for them, struggling with maintenance, loneliness, and health issues. I wanted to create a program connecting these women with volunteers who could help with tasks, provide companionship, and ensure they weren't forgotten. I called it Silver Sisters. I spent 3 months developing the concept, writing a mission statement, researching similar programs, planning how it would work. I applied for nonprofit status. I created a website. I started recruiting volunteers. I told Dovey about it over coffee. That's such a beautiful idea, Melvina, Dovey said. Really meaningful work. Thank you, I said. I'm excited about it. This could really help a lot of women. 2 weeks later, I received an email from the state nonprofit registration office. My application for Silver Sisters had been rejected. Why? Because a nonprofit with an identical name and mission already existed. I looked it up. Silver Sisters, founded by Dovey Marshall, was already registered, already had a website, already had volunteers signed up. She'd taken my idea, registered it herself, and launched it before I could. I confronted her. Dovey, you stole my charity idea, I said, trying to stay calm. Stole? Melvina, what are you talking about? Dovey said, eyes wide with fake innocence. I told you about Silver Sisters. You went and registered it yourself. I registered Senior Sisters, Dovey corrected. Similar name, yes, but I've been working on this concept for months. I must have mentioned it to you at some point and you forgot. Maybe that's where you got the idea. You're gaslighting me, I said. I told you about this 2 weeks ago. You stole it. Melvina, I think you're confused, Dovey said gently. Maybe you're misremembering the timeline. It happens as we get older. Memory isn't always reliable. My memory is fine, I said coldly. Of course it is, Dovey said in that patronizing tone. I'm sure you believed you told me first, but Melvina, I've been planning this for a while. You must have mixed things up. I had no proof, no witnesses to our conversation, just my word against hers. And she knew it. 3 months ago, I started documenting everything. I kept a journal of every interaction with Dovey. Every time she copied something, my clothes, my phrases, my plans. I saved text messages. I took screenshots of her social media posts. And I started digging into her past. What I found shocked me. This wasn't the first time Dovey had done this. I found a woman named Pearlie Thompson who'd been Dovey's best friend 15 years ago, before Dovey moved to our city. I tracked Pearlie down and called her. You're Dovey's new best friend, Pearlie said when I explained who I was. Girl, get away from her, as fast as you can. What do you mean? I asked. Dovey did the same thing to me, Pearlie said. We were best friends for 10 years, then she started taking over my life. She got a job at my company. She dated my brother. She befriended my kids and turned them against me. She even tried to steal my husband. Thankfully, he saw through her. Why didn't you warn anyone? I asked. Who would believe me? Pearlie said. Dovey's so charming, so likable. When I tried to tell people what she was doing, they thought I was jealous or paranoid. Eventually, I just moved away to escape her. This is a pattern, I said, my blood running cold. Yes, Pearlie confirmed. Dovey doesn't just want to be your friend. She wants to be you, to take your place completely. And she won't stop until she has everything you have, or until you have nothing left. That's when I knew. This wasn't friendship gone wrong. This was predatory behavior. Dovey was systematically dismantling my life and replacing me in it. And I was going to stop her. 1 month ago, my daughter Zenobia got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Sterling. Zenobia called me to share the news. Mom, I'm engaged, she said excitedly. That's wonderful, baby, I said. I'm so happy for you. We're planning a small wedding, Zenobia said. Just family and close friends and Mom. I want Dovey to help me plan it. My heart sank, not me. You too, of course, Zenobia said quickly. But Dovey's so organized and she has such good taste, and she offered to help, which is really generous. I see, I said. Over the next few weeks, I watched Dovey take over my daughter's wedding planning. She chose the venue, the caterer, the flowers, the photographer. Zenobia consulted her on everything, and Dovey made sure I was excluded from most decisions. Don't worry, Melvina, Dovey said sweetly. I've got everything under control. You just show up and enjoy your daughter's special day. That's when I finalized my plan. I'd been collecting evidence for months. Now I had everything I needed. Text messages showing Dovey had known about my plans before, coincidentally, implementing identical ones. Financial records showing she'd researched my ex-husband before randomly meeting him. Testimonies from Pearlie and 2 other women I'd found who'd had similar experiences with Dovey. Screenshots showing Dovey copying my social media posts almost word for word, just days after I posted them. And most damning, a recording of a conversation where Dovey told her daughter Artie, I'm going to have everything Melvina has. Her job, her man, her kids. She won't even realize she's being replaced until it's too late. I'd secretly recorded that conversation when I overheard Dovey talking to Artie in a coffee shop. It was risky, possibly not admissible in court, but it was proof. I compiled everything into a presentation. Photos, documents, recordings, timelines. And I decided the wedding was the perfect moment to reveal the truth. Everyone would be there. My children, my ex-husband, Dovey, her daughter, extended family and friends. Everyone who needed to see who Dovey really was would be in one room. And I would expose her completely. Which brings us to last week, my daughter's wedding day. The ceremony was beautiful. Zenobia looked radiant. Sterling was clearly in love. It should have been a perfect day. But all I could think about was what was coming. At the reception, Dovey was everywhere, directing the caterers, adjusting decorations, talking to guests like she was the mother of the bride. She even wore a dress nearly identical to mine. Same style, similar color, so we looked like we were trying to match. "Doesn't Dovey look great?" Several guests commented. "You two are like sisters." After dinner, speeches began. The best man spoke. The maid of honor spoke. Then Dovey stood up, uninvited, and took the microphone. "I just want to say a few words," Dovey announced. "I've known Zenobia since she was a little girl, and I'm so proud of the woman she's become. I'm honored to have played a role in her life, to have been there for her and her family through so many important moments." She smiled at me as she spoke. That confident, smug smile that said, "I've won. I've taken your place. Your daughter loves me more than you." That's when I stood up. "Dovey, I need to borrow that microphone," I said calmly. Dovey's smile faltered. "Melvina, we have a schedule." "Now please," I said firmly. The room went quiet. Everyone sensed tension. Dovey, reluctantly, handed me the microphone. I looked around the room at all the people I loved, all the people Dovey had manipulated. "I have something important to share," I began. "About Dovey, about what she's been doing for the past 2 years, about who she really is." Dovey's face went pale. "Melvina, what are you doing?" she asked nervously. "Revealing the truth," I said. "Sit down, Dovey, we're not done yet, not by a long shot." I pulled out my laptop, connected it to the reception venue's projection screen, and started my presentation. And as the first slide appeared, showing side-by-side photos of Dovey and me wearing identical outfits on different days, Dovey's confident smile vanished completely. This story is just beginning. Subscribe now. Hit that like button and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Have you ever had a friend who betrayed you? Do you think Melvina is doing the right thing? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, Australia? Let me know. The wedding reception fell completely silent as the first image appeared on the projection screen. 2 photos, side by side. On the left, me at a charity event in March 2024 wearing a teal dress with a distinctive pattern. On the right, Dovey at a different event 2 weeks later wearing an almost identical dress. "This might look like a coincidence," I said calmly into the microphone. "2 friends who happen to have similar taste, but let me show you something else." I clicked to the next slide. 10 more photo pairs, each showing me wearing something distinctive, followed by Dovey wearing the same thing days or weeks later. Same hairstyle, same accessories, same color schemes. For 2 years, Dovey has been systematically copying everything about me, I said. My appearance, my mannerisms, my ideas, even my life choices. "Melvina, this is ridiculous," Dovey said, standing up. Her face was red now, not pale. "We're friends. Friends influence each other, this is." "Sit down," I said firmly. "I'm not finished." Dovey looked around the room for support. My daughter Zenobia looked confused. My son Royal looked shocked. Homer, my ex-husband who was now dadding Dovey, looked uncomfortable. "There's more," I continued. "Much more." I clicked to the next section of my presentation, the job theft. 3 years ago, I was the assistant director at Hope House Women's Shelter, I explained. I'd worked there for 15 years. The director, Sterling Matthews, told me privately he was recommending me for his position when he retired. I showed emails and text messages between Sterling and me confirming this conversation. I shared this news with Dovey, my best friend, in confidence, I said. 2 weeks later, Dovey started volunteering at Hope House, something she'd never shown interest in before. I showed the timeline, the date I told Dovey, the date she started volunteering. Within a month, Dovey had impressed the board so much that they chose her for the director position instead of me, I said. The job I'd been promised, the job I'd worked 15 years to earn. I clicked to show a text message from Dovey to her daughter Artie. "I found out Melvina's getting promoted at the shelter. I'm going to volunteer there and see if I can make a better impression on the board. If I play this right, I might be able to get that position instead. Gasps rippled through the room. You saved my texts, Dovey said, her voice shaking. You violated my privacy. Your daughter Artie forwarded it to me, I said calmly. Last month, after I reached out to her and explained what her mother had been doing. Artie, Dovey's 39-year-old daughter, stood up from her seat. It's true, Artie said, her voice breaking. I sent Ms. Melvina that message, and others, because I've been watching my mother do this for years, and I'm tired of being silent. Artie, Dovey said, looking betrayed. How could you? How could you, Mom? Artie shot back. Ms. Melvina was good to us. She was a real friend, and you've been systematically destroying her life. The room erupted in murmurs. I waited for silence, then continued. Next, we have the matter of my ex-husband, I said, looking at Homer. Homer shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Dovey reached for his hand, but he pulled away. Homer and I divorced 15 years ago, I explained. We remained friendly, co-parenting our children, attending family events together. Then 2 years ago, Dovey started dating him. That's not a crime, Dovey protested. You're divorced. He's single, I'm single. What's wrong with two single people dating? Nothing wrong with it, I agreed, except for how it started. I showed text messages from Dovey to Homer, beginning 2 years and 3 months ago. Dovey, hi Homer. This is Melvina's friend Dovey. I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I'm worried about Melvina and thought you might have insights about how to help her. Homer, help her with what? Is she okay? Dovey, I think she's struggling emotionally. Maybe depression. I want to understand her better so I can be supportive. Could we talk sometime? Maybe coffee. That's how it started, I said. Dovey reached out to my ex-husband under the pretense of being concerned about me. She asked him questions about our marriage, our relationship, what made him happy. I showed more messages, showing how the conversations shifted from concern for Melvina to personal discussions between Homer and Dovey. Within 2 months, they were dating, I said, but Dovey never told me she'd reached out to Homer. She let him tell me they'd randomly connected. She lied about how the relationship started. Homer stood up. Dovey, is this true? You contacted me specifically to get information about Melvina. I was concerned about her, Dovey stammered. That's not a lie. But you used that concern as an excuse to get close to me, Homer said, realization dawning on his face. You manipulated me. I didn't manipulate anyone, Dovey insisted. We fell in love, that's real. Is it? I asked. Or were you just trying to take another piece of my life? I moved to the next section, and this one hurt the most to present. Dovey also targeted my children, I said, looking at Zenobia and Royal. She systematically inserted herself into your lives, gave you advice that contradicted mine, and worked to replace me as your primary maternal figure. Mom, that's not true, Zenobia said, standing. Dovey didn't replace you, she was there for me when I needed advice. Advice she specifically designed to undermine me, I said. I showed text messages between Dovey and Zenobia. Dovey, your mom means well, but she's from a different generation. She doesn't understand your struggles the way I do. Dovey, I think your mom is too controlling. You need to set boundaries with her. Dovey, your mom seems lonely and maybe a little jealous of our relationship. That's natural, but don't let it make you feel guilty. You were poisoning my relationship with my daughter, I said to Dovey, making Zenobia feel guilty for being close to me, making her think I was jealous, controlling, outdated. I was helping her establish healthy boundaries, Dovey protested. You were isolating her from me, I corrected, just like you did with Royal. I showed similar messages between Dovey and Royal. Same pattern, same undermining of my role as their mother. Royal stood up, tears in his eyes. Dovey, you told me Mom was being judgmental about my career choices. You said she didn't understand my ambitions, but now I see. You were just trying to create distance between us. I was trying to help you, Dovey said desperately. Your mother was holding you back. No, you were pushing me away from her, Royal said. And I let you. I'm so sorry, Mom. It's not your fault, baby, I said. Dovey is very good at manipulation. And then there's the charity, I said, moving to the next section. I showed my original documents for Silver Sisters, the mission statement I'd written, the planning documents dated 6 months before Dovey registered her nearly identical charity. I spent months developing this concept, I explained. I told Dovey about it in detail. 2 weeks later, she registered an almost identical charity under her own name and launched it before I could. When I confronted her, she claimed she'd been working on the same idea for months and that I must have misremembered our conversation, I said. She used my own age against me, suggesting my memory was faulty. I showed an audio recording, Dovey's voice, speaking to someone on the phone. Dovey, Melvina told me about this charity idea. It's actually brilliant. I'm going to register it first. By the time she realizes what happened, it'll be too late. And if she complains, I'll just say she's confused. People already think she's getting forgetful. The room gasped again. The voice was undeniably Dovey's. You recorded me, Dovey said, her voice rising to a shriek. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, I said. This is a one-party consent state, and I was that one party. You were on speakerphone while I was visiting your house. You didn't know I was there, but legally. I had every right to record what I heard in a space I was invited into. This is insane, Dovey said. You've been spying on me. I've been documenting your systematic theft of my life, I corrected. There's a difference. Now, some of you might think this is all a series of unfortunate coincidences, I said. That Dovey and I just happen to want similar things at similar times. But let me show you something that proves this is a pattern. I clicked to the next slide, showing a photo of a woman I didn't recognize. This is Pearlie Thompson, I said. She was Dovey's best friend from 2005 to 2015, before Dovey moved to our city. A video started playing on the screen. It was Pearlie speaking directly to the camera. My name is Pearlie Thompson, the video said. 15 years ago, Dovey Marshall was my best friend. Then she started taking over my life. The video showed Pearlie describing exactly what Dovey had done to her, befriending her, then slowly copying her, taking her opportunities, dating her brother, befriending her children, trying to seduce her husband. I thought I was going crazy, Pearlie said in the video. Everyone told me I was paranoid, but I wasn't. Dovey was systematically replacing me. When I finally confronted her, she moved away, and I later learned she'd found a new best friend in a new city. That new best friend was me, I said as the video ended. And I'm not the first. There's also Winnie Crawford from 1998 to 2004. Another video played. Another woman describing the exact same pattern of behavior from Dovey. And Sterling Davis from 1992 to 1997, I continued. A third video, same story, same predatory friendship, same systematic replacement. Dovey has been doing this for over 30 years, I said. She finds a woman she admires, usually someone slightly more successful, more established, more connected than she is. She becomes that woman's best friend. Then she slowly takes everything, the job, the relationships, the identity itself. She's a social chameleon, I continued. She studies her target, copies her style, her mannerisms, her ideas. She inserts herself into the target's life until she's indispensable. Then she starts replacing the target entirely. And when the target finally notices and complains, Dovey plays the victim, I said. She makes the target look paranoid, jealous, unstable. She turns everyone against the target until the target has nothing left. The room was completely silent now, everyone staring at Dovey. But I'm not going to let that happen to me, I said firmly. I documented everything. I found Dovey's previous victims. I have proof of her pattern going back 30 years. And now all of you know the truth. Dovey stood frozen, her face cycling through emotions. Shock, horror, rage, and something else. Something that looked almost like relief. You want to know why, Dovey finally said, her voice cold. You want to know why I do this? Dovey, don't. Artie tried to intervene. No, let me speak, Dovey said. They all think they know me now. Let me tell them who I really am. She walked to the front of the room, standing next to me, facing everyone. I grew up with nothing, Dovey said. No father. Mother worked 3 jobs. We lived in a trailer. I wore hand-me-downs. I ate free lunch at school. I was nobody. But I was smart, she continued. I watched the girls who had everything, the nice clothes, the confidence, the families that loved them, and I learned. I learned how to dress like them, talk like them, act like them. I learned that if you can't be born into a good life, you can steal one, Dovey said, her voice getting louder. You find someone who has what you want and you take it, piece by piece, until their life becomes yours. That's psychotic, Homer said, standing up. Dovey, that's completely insane. Is it? Dovey challenged. Is it insane to want a better life, to see someone who has everything you've ever wanted and figure out how to get it? Yes, several people shouted. You don't get to steal other people's lives, Zenobia said, crying. You don't get to manipulate people who trusted you. Trust is weakness, Dovey said coldly. Melvina trusted me, Pearlie trusted me, all of them trusted me, and that's why it was so easy. Do you even feel guilty? Royal asked. Do you feel anything at all? Dovey smiled, that same confident, smug smile she'd been wearing all evening. I feel successful, she said. For 30 years, I've lived better lives than I ever could have built on my own. I've had better jobs, better relationships, better opportunities, all because I was smart enough to take them from people too trusting to protect themselves. You're a sociopath, I said quietly. Maybe, Dovey agreed. Or maybe I'm just a survivor. Maybe I'm just someone who figured out how to get what she deserves in a world that would never give it to her willingly. You don't deserve anything you've stolen, Artie said, walking up to stand beside me. And I won't watch you do this anymore, Mom. I'm done protecting you. I'm done making excuses. Artie, you ungrateful, Dovey started. I'm done, Artie repeated firmly. Ms. Melvina showed me the pattern. She showed me what you did to Pearlie, to Winnie, to Sterling. And she helped me see that you've been using me too, making me lie for you, making me cover for you. I won't do it anymore. Dovey's face contorted with rage. Fine, fine. All of you want to think I'm the villain. I'm the villain. I gave years of my life to these friendships. I supported these women. I helped them. You used them, I corrected. You never cared about any of us. You only cared about what you could take. And now what? Dovey asked, turning to me. You've exposed me. You've turned everyone against me. What do you want? An apology? Revenge? What? I want you out of my life, I said simply. Completely out of my neighborhood, away from my children, away from my ex-husband. I want you to leave and never contact me or anyone I love again. And if I don't, Dovey challenged. I pulled out one more document, a restraining order, already signed by a judge. Then this restraining order goes into effect, I said. You'll be legally required to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, my children, and my workplace. If you violate it, you'll be arrested. You can't do this, Dovey said, but her voice was shaking now. I already did, I said. The judge signed it yesterday. It goes into effect the moment you're served, which is right now. A police officer, who'd been standing quietly in the back of the room, stepped forward and handed Dovey the official documents. Ms. Marshall, you've been served, the officer said. You need to leave this venue immediately and maintain the required distance from Ms. Chase. Dovey looked around the room, at Homer who wouldn't meet her eyes, at Zenobia and Royal who looked disgusted, at Artie who stood firmly beside me, at all the guests who were staring at her with horror and revulsion. This isn't over, Dovey said, her voice low and threatening. Yes, it is, I said calmly. It's completely over. You have no power here anymore. No friends, no support, no life to steal. It's over. The police officer escorted Dovey out of the venue. We could hear her shouting as she left, but the words were incoherent. When the door closed behind her, the room remained silent for a long moment. Then Zenobia ran to me and hugged me tightly. Mom, I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I'm so sorry I let her come between us. It's okay, baby, I said, holding her. That's what Dovey does. She's very good at manipulation. You're not to blame. Royal joined the hug. I'm sorry too, Mom. I should have listened to you. I should have seen what she was doing. You see it now, I said. That's what matters. Homer approached us hesitantly. Melvina, I need to apologize too. I was completely fooled. I thought Dovey genuinely cared about me. I didn't realize I was just another piece of your life she was trying to take. It's not your fault either, I said. Dovey is very convincing. That's how she's done this for 30 years. This story is getting more intense. Subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Do you think Dovey got what she deserved? Could you forgive a friend who did this to you? Where are you watching from? The wedding reception continued, but the atmosphere had completely changed. What should have been a celebration was now a processing session, everyone trying to understand what they'd just witnessed. Zenobia and Sterling decided to continue with the reception despite the drama. I'm not letting Dovey ruin my wedding day completely, Zenobia said. She's taken enough from us. She's not taking this. But as the evening went on, people kept approaching me with questions, apologies, and their own stories about interactions with Dovey that now seemed suspicious in hindsight. She asked me very specific questions about your finances, one cousin told me. I thought she was just being friendly, but now I realize she was gathering information. She borrowed a dress from me that was identical to one you'd worn, another friend said. She said she wanted to surprise you by matching. Now I see it was just more copying. She told me you'd given her permission to contact your doctor about your health, my neighbor revealed. She said you were having memory problems and had asked her to help monitor your medical care. Each revelation made the scope of Dovey's manipulation clearer. She hadn't just targeted me, she'd manipulated everyone around me to enable her theft of my life. The morning after the wedding, I woke up exhausted but relieved. I'd expected to feel victorious, but instead I felt hollow. 30 years of friendship destroyed. Not gradually, not through natural drift, but revealed to have been a lie from the start. Had Dovey ever really been my friend? Or had I just been her latest project from day one? My phone was flooded with messages, texts from family members, calls from friends, emails from people I hadn't spoken to in years. And one particularly concerning voicemail from Dovey. You think you've won, Dovey's voice said, cold and calm. You think you've destroyed me, but Melvina, you've just made things worse for yourself. I'll make sure everyone knows what a vindictive, paranoid woman you are. I'll make sure your children see who you really are. This isn't over. I saved the voicemail and forwarded it to my lawyer. It was a clear violation of the restraining order. She wasn't supposed to contact me at all. But more than that, it was a threat, and I knew Dovey well enough to know she'd follow through. 2 days after the wedding, Dovey launched her counterattack. She posted on social media a long, emotional post about being falsely accused and publicly humiliated by a former friend who's suffering from paranoia and possible dementia. I'm heartbroken to share that a friendship I valued for 30 years has ended in a horrific public accusation, Dovey wrote. Melvina Chase, whom I considered a sister, has been experiencing increased confusion and memory problems over the past year. Her children and I have been trying to help her, but instead of accepting help, she's created an elaborate conspiracy theory about me stealing her life. Yesterday, she ambushed me at her daughter's wedding with a presentation full of out-of-context texts, manipulated timelines, and outright lies. She humiliated me in front of over 100 people and had me served with a restraining order based on her paranoid delusions. I'm sharing this not to embarrass Melvina, but to raise awareness about how mental decline can affect relationships. If you have aging parents or friends, please watch for signs of paranoia, confusion, or irrational accusations. Early intervention is crucial. The post had been carefully crafted to make her look like the victim, and me look like an unstable elderly woman losing touch with reality. Within hours, it had hundreds of shares and comments. Some people who didn't know us well believed her. That's so sad. one commented. It's hard watching someone you love lose themselves to dementia. But others, especially people who'd attended the wedding, called her out immediately. I was at that wedding, one guest commented. I saw the evidence, the texts, the recordings, the testimonies from other women Dovey victimized. This isn't dementia, this is Dovey trying to escape accountability. Classic narcissist move, another wrote. When exposed, attack the accuser's credibility. We see you, Dovey. My children immediately posted their own responses, defending me and confirming the evidence was real. But the damage was done. Dovey had successfully planted seeds of doubt in some people's minds. That afternoon, my lawyer Zenobia Hart, no relation to my daughter, called me. Melvina, we need to talk about Dovey's social media post, Zenobia said. It's defamatory. She's publicly claiming you have dementia and paranoid delusions, which is demonstrably false. Can we sue her? I asked. We can, and we probably should, Zenobia said. But there's another issue. Dovey filed a counter-restraining order against you. What? I said. On what grounds? She claims you've been stalking and harassing her for months, Zenobia explained. That you've been following her, recording her without permission, and cyber-stalking her social media. She's arguing that your restraining order against her is actually part of a campaign of harassment. That's absurd, I said. I documented her behavior because she was stealing my life. That's not harassment. I know, Zenobia said, and we have evidence to prove it, but we'll need to go to court to fight the counter-restraining order. The hearing is scheduled for next week. So Dovey gets to harass me with legal action now? I asked, frustrated. Unfortunately, anyone can file for a restraining order, Zenobia said. Whether it's granted is another matter. But Melvina, you need to be prepared. Dovey's going to fight dirty. She's going to try to make you look unstable, obsessed, vindictive. We need to be ready to defend your credibility. I have proof of everything, I said. The recordings, the testimonies. I know, Zenobia said. But Dovey's going to argue that you manipulated that evidence, that you took things out of context, that your mental decline made you misinterpret innocent behavior. It's going to be ugly. That evening, I sat on my porch feeling overwhelmed. 30 years of friendship revealed as a lie. My reputation under attack. A legal battle ahead. A car pulled up in front of my house. My neighbor Sterling Washington, who'd lived across the street for 20 years, got out and walked over. Melvina, can we talk? Sterling asked. Of course, I said. Sterling sat down beside me. He was 72, a retired teacher, and someone I'd always liked but never been particularly close to. I've been thinking about what happened at the wedding, Sterling said. About Dovey, and I need to tell you something. What? I asked. Dovey approached me about 6 months ago, Sterling said. She asked me a lot of questions about you, how long you'd lived here, whether you had financial problems, whether I'd noticed any signs of memory issues or confusion. She was gathering evidence for her dementia narrative, I realized. Exactly, Sterling confirmed. At the time, I thought she was just being a concerned friend. Now I see she was building a case to discredit you if you ever exposed her. Did you tell her anything? I asked. I told her you seemed perfectly fine to me, Sterling said. Sharp as ever, but she kept pushing, asking if I was sure, suggesting that you might be hiding problems. I shut down the conversation because it felt inappropriate. Thank you for telling me, I said. There's more, Sterling added. Dovey also tried to befriend my wife, Octavia, started inviting her to coffee, asking her questions about our family, our finances, our relationship. Octavia thought it was odd. Dovey had never shown interest in being friends before, but she didn't think much of it. Until the wedding, I guessed. Until the wedding, Sterling confirmed. Now Octavia realizes Dovey was probably sizing us up as potential next targets. Once she'd fully taken over your life, she'd move on to someone else. Maybe us. The thought made me shudder. Dovey hadn't just stolen from me. She'd been planning her next victim while I was still useful. Octavia and I want you to know we're on your side, Sterling said. We believe you. And if you need anything, character witnesses for court, support, whatever, we're here. That means more than you know, I said, feeling tears well up. For the first time since the wedding, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. The court hearing for Dovey's counter-restraining order arrived quickly. I sat in the courtroom with my lawyer Zenobia on one side and my children on the other. Across the aisle, Dovey sat with her lawyer, Burl Stone, a man known for aggressive tactics. Judge Royal Martinez presided over the hearing. We're here regarding dueling restraining orders, Judge Martinez began. Ms. Chase has an order against Ms. Marshall for systematic harassment and theft of identity. Ms. Marshall is requesting an order against Ms. Chase for alleged stalking and harassment. Mr. Stone, you may present your case. Burl Stone stood up. Your Honor, my client has been the victim of a disturbing campaign of stalking and harassment by Ms. Chase. For months, Ms. Chase has been following my client, recording her conversations without consent, monitoring her social media, and collecting information about her personal life. This behavior escalated at a wedding reception where Ms. Chase ambushed my client with a public presentation making wild accusations. Stone continued. Ms. Chase claims my client has been stealing her life, which is clearly a paranoid delusion. The evidence suggests Ms. Chase is experiencing age-related cognitive decline, Stone said. She's become fixated on my client, interpreting normal friend behavior as malicious. We have statements from mutual friends expressing concern about Ms. Chase's mental state. We're requesting a restraining order to protect my client from further harassment, Stone concluded. Judge Martinez turned to my lawyer. Ms. Hart, your response. Zenobia stood. Your Honor, Mr. Stone's characterization is completely false. Ms. Chase is not experiencing cognitive decline. We have medical evaluations confirming she's fully mentally competent. Zenobia submitted documents, 3 separate cognitive evaluations from neurologists, all showing I was perfectly healthy mentally. Furthermore, Ms. Chase's documentation of Ms. Marshall's behavior was not stalking. It was self-protection, Zenobia continued. When someone is systematically stealing your job opportunities, manipulating your children, and taking over your life, documenting that behavior is reasonable and necessary. We have evidence proving a 30-year pattern of predatory behavior by Ms. Marshall, Zenobia said. Video testimonies from 3 previous victims who experienced identical treatment. Text messages showing Ms. Marshall deliberately targeted Ms. Chase's opportunities. Recordings proving Ms. Marshall knew exactly what she was doing. This isn't a case of an elderly woman misinterpreting friendship, Zenobia concluded. This is a case of a manipulative predator being exposed and trying to discredit her victim. I'll hear testimony, Judge Martinez said. Burl Stone called his first witness, a mutual acquaintance named Homer Chen, who'd known both Dovey and me for several years. Mr. Chen, have you noticed any changes in Ms. Chase's behavior over the past year? Stone asked. Well, she's become more isolated, Homer Chen said. She stopped attending community events, seemed more suspicious of people. I was concerned about her. Did she ever express paranoid thoughts to you? Stone asked. She mentioned she thought Dovey was copying her, Homer Chen said, which seemed odd because friends often influence each other. It felt like an overreaction. On cross-examination, Zenobia asked, Mr. Chen, did Ms. Chase provide you with any specific examples of this copying? She mentioned clothes and hairstyles, Homer Chen admitted, but I didn't think much of it. Did you attend the wedding where Ms. Chase presented her evidence? Zenobia asked. No, I wasn't invited, Homer Chen said. So you haven't actually seen the evidence of Ms. Marshall's pattern of behavior? Zenobia pressed. No, Homer Chen admitted. I'm basing my opinion on my interactions with Melvina before the wedding. Before she had revealed the full truth, Zenobia clarified. So your testimony is based on incomplete information. I suppose so, Homer Chen said reluctantly. Stone's other witnesses had similar limitations. They hadn't seen the evidence, hadn't witnessed Dovey's manipulation firsthand, were just reporting that I'd seemed different or paranoid in recent months. Then Zenobia called her witnesses. First was Pearlie Thompson, Dovie's victim from 15 years ago. "Ms. Thompson, can you describe your relationship with Ms. Marshall?" Zenobia asked. "Dovie was my best friend for 10 years, Pearlie said. Then she systematically took over my life, my job opportunities, my relationships with my family, even my personal style. When I confronted her, she made me look crazy, paranoid, unstable, just like she's trying to do to Ms. Chase now." "Did you document her behavior?" Zenobia asked. "I tried to," Pearlie said. "But back then, I didn't have the foresight Ms. Chase had. I didn't gather enough proof. So when Dovie denied everything, people believed her instead of me." "What happened to your friendship?" Zenobia asked. "I had to move away," Pearlie said. "Leave my community, my home, everything, because Dovie had turned everyone against me. It was easier to start over somewhere else than to keep fighting." "And when Ms. Chase contacted you about her experiences with Ms. Marshall, what did you think?" Zenobia asked. "I thought, finally, someone with proof," Pearlie said. "Someone who documented everything so Dovie can't deny it. Someone who might actually stop her." The second witness was Winnie Crawford, another of Dovie's previous victims. Winnie told a similar story. Friendship turned predatory, systematic theft of identity and opportunities, gaslighting and manipulation when confronted. "I lost my job because of Dovie," Winnie testified. "She got hired at my company, befriended my boss, then slowly convinced him I was incompetent. Within a year, I was fired, and she had my position." "Did you try to report this?" Zenobia asked. "Who would I report it to?" Winnie asked. "Dovie didn't do anything technically illegal. She just took over, charmed everyone, made them like her more than me. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd already lost." The third witness was Artie, Dovie's own daughter. "Ms. Marshall, you submitted a statement supporting Ms. Chase's restraining order," Zenobia said. "Can you explain why?" Artie took a deep breath. "Because I've watched my mother do this my whole life. She finds a woman she wants to be, befriends her, then slowly becomes her. She's done it 6 times that I know of, probably more." "And you helped her?" Zenobia asked gently. "When I was younger, I didn't understand what she was doing," Artie said. "I thought she was just being friendly, adapting to new social circles. But as I got older, I saw the pattern, the manipulation, the way she'd discard these women once she'd taken what she wanted." "Why are you testifying against your mother?" Zenobia asked. "Because I'm tired of being complicit," Artie said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm tired of watching her destroy people. Ms. Chase was kind to me. She treated me with respect and dignity, and I watched my mother systematically try to destroy her. I can't be silent anymore." Dovie stared at her daughter with pure hatred. No mask of concern or hurt, just raw, undisguised hatred. After hearing all the testimony and reviewing the evidence, Judge Martinez made his ruling. "I've reviewed the evidence presented by both parties," Judge Martinez said, "and I find Ms. Marshall's petition for a restraining order to be without merit. The evidence clearly shows a pattern of manipulative behavior by Ms. Marshall spanning decades," he continued. "Ms. Chase's documentation of this behavior was reasonable self-protection, not harassment. Furthermore, I'm troubled by Ms. Marshall's attempt to weaponize the legal system against her victim," Judge Martinez said sternly. "Filing a frivolous counter-restraining order to harass someone who exposed your bad behavior is abuse of the court system." "Ms. Marshall's petition is denied," Judge Martinez concluded. "Ms. Chase's restraining order against Ms. Marshall remains in full effect. Additionally, I'm ordering Ms. Marshall to pay Ms. Chase's legal fees for defending against this frivolous petition." "And Ms. Marshall," Judge Martinez added, looking directly at Dovie, "I'm warning you. If you violate the restraining order, if you contact Ms. Chase or her family in any way, if you continue your social media campaign against her, you will face criminal charges. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Honor," Dovie said, her voice tight with suppressed rage. As we left the courtroom, Dovie's mask finally slipped completely. She turned to me and hissed, This isn't over. You haven't won. I'll destroy you. That was a threat witnessed by multiple people, Zenobia said loudly, including that police officer right there. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, you're in violation of your restraining order. You need to come with me. Dovey was arrested on the spot, right outside the courtroom, for violating the restraining order with her threat. As the officer led her away, Dovey screamed, "You'll pay for this, Melvina. You'll all pay." I watched her being put in the police car and felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just exhaustion. 30 years of lies finally exposed, but at what cost? Subscribe now, smash that like button, and turn on NOTFICTONS. Drop a comment. Do you think Dovey will accept defeat? What should happen to Dovey now? Where are you watching from? 3 months after Dovey's arrest outside the courtroom, I sat on my porch watching the sunrise and reflecting on how much had changed. Dovey had spent 2 days in jail for violating the restraining order before posting bail. She'd been charged with criminal harassment and was awaiting trial. But more importantly, her entire social circle had collapsed. The women she'd befriended in our community, most of whom had been my friends first, had cut her off completely. Her position at Hope House was terminated. Her relationship with my ex-husband Homer had ended immediately after the wedding revelation. She'd lost everything she'd stolen from me, and for the first time in probably decades, Dovey was alone. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt sad, not for Dovey, but for the friendship I'd thought we had, for 30 years of memories that were now tainted with the knowledge that none of it was real. My phone rang. It was my lawyer, Zenobia Hart. "Melvina, I have news," Zenobia said. "Dovey's lawyer contacted me. She wants to make a deal." 2 days later, I sat in Zenobia's office across from Dovey and her lawyer, Burl Stone. Dovey looked different, smaller somehow. The confident, smug energy that had defined her for as long as I'd known her was gone. She looked tired, defeated, and older than her 69 years. "Ms. Chase, my client would like to propose a settlement to avoid trial," Burl Stone began. "She's willing to plead guilty to the harassment charges in exchange for a reduced sentence." "What kind of sentence?" Zenobia asked. "Probation, community service, mandatory therapy, and permanent enforcement of the restraining order," Stone said. "No jail time." "And in exchange?" I asked, looking directly at Dovey. "In exchange, you agree not to pursue civil damages," Stone said. "No defamation lawsuit, no lawsuit for emotional distress, nothing that would cost my client financially." I studied Dovey. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her hands, her face expressionless. "Can I speak to Dovey directly?" I asked. Stone and Zenobia both nodded. "Dovey, look at me," I said. Slowly, Dovey raised her eyes to meet mine. "Why?" I asked simply. "Why did you do this to me? To all those other women, what was the point?" For a long moment, Dovey said nothing. Then, quietly, "Because you had everything I never did." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You had a real family," Dovey said, her voice flat. "Children who loved you, an ex-husband you stayed friends with, a community where you belonged. You weren't rich, you weren't successful by society's standards, but people genuinely cared about you. You had something real." "And I had nothing," Dovey continued. "My daughter barely tolerates me. I've never had a real relationship. Every man I've dated was someone I targeted because he belonged to someone else. Every friend I've had was someone I was studying, copying, planning to replace." "I don't know how to have real relationships," Dovey said. "I've been pretending my whole life, becoming whoever people want me to be, and the closest I've ever come to feeling like I belonged was when I was pretending to be you." "That's not an explanation," I said. "That's an excuse." "I know," Dovey said, "but it's the truth. I targeted you because you had a life I wanted, and I've done it to so many women over the years that I don't even remember who I really am anymore. I'm just a collection of stolen pieces from other people's lives." "Do you feel guilty?" I asked. "For what you did to me, to Pearlie, Winnie, Sterling, and all the others?" Dovey thought about it. "I don't know how to feel guilty," she finally said. I understand intellectually that what I did was wrong, but emotionally, I just feel empty, like there's nothing inside me that's actually real. That's sociopathy, Zenobia said bluntly. What you're describing is textbook sociopathic behavior. Maybe, Dovey agreed. My court-ordered therapist says I have something called identity disturbance, part of a personality disorder. Apparently, I don't have a stable sense of who I am, so I try to become other people. That doesn't excuse 30 years of destroying people's lives, I said. No, it doesn't, Dovey agreed. But it explains it, and for what it's worth, Melvina, you were different. Different how? I asked. You were the only one who fought back, Dovey said. The only one who documented everything, who found my previous victims, who exposed me publicly. Everyone else just gave up, moved away, let me win, but you didn't. You stood up to me. Is that supposed to be a compliment? I asked. It's supposed to be an acknowledgement, Dovey said. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. I thought I could break you like I broke the others, but I couldn't, and honestly, I respect that. I don't want your respect, I said coldly. I want you to leave me alone, forever. That's what I'm offering, Dovey said. I'll plead guilty. I'll do the probation and community service. I'll go to therapy. I'll stay away from you and everyone you love, and in return, you don't sue me for everything I have. I looked at Zenobia. What do you think? Financially, you could destroy her in civil court, Zenobia said. You have an airtight case for defamation, emotional distress, and more. You could probably get hundreds of thousands in damages. But, I prompted. But it would take years of litigation, Zenobia said. Years of staying connected to this woman, reliving the trauma, fighting in court. The question is, do you want money or do you want freedom? I looked at Dovey again. This woman who'd been my best friend for 30 years, who'd stolen my opportunities, my relationships, my identity, who'd almost succeeded in replacing me entirely. I want freedom, I said. I accept the deal, but with one additional condition. What condition? Stone asked. Dovey writes a public statement, a real one, not some fake apology, acknowledging what she did to me and her other victims, I said. She posts it on social media, takes full responsibility, and doesn't delete it for at least 1 year. I want her exposed so she can't do this to anyone else. Dovey flinched. You want me to humiliate myself publicly? You already humiliated yourself, I said. I'm just asking you to be honest about it, to warn other women so they don't become your next victims. Dovey looked at her lawyer. Stone sighed. It's a reasonable condition given what you're getting in return. Fine, Dovey finally said. I'll write the statement. 1 week later, Dovey posted her statement on social media. It was longer and more detailed than I'd expected. My name is Dovey Marshall, and I need to confess something that I've been hiding for over 30 years. I am a predator, not the kind you typically think of, but a predator nonetheless. I target women, usually in their 30s or 40s, usually successful, well-liked, with strong family connections, and I systematically steal their lives. I befriend them, earn their trust, learn everything about them. Then I copy their style, their mannerisms, their interests. I take their job opportunities. I pursue their romantic interests. I befriend their children and families. I create an identical charity or project to the ones they're planning. I replace them piece by piece until I've taken everything that made their life theirs. And when they notice and try to confront me, I gaslight them. I make them look paranoid, jealous, unstable. I turn their friends and family against them. I isolate them until they have nothing left. I've done this to at least 6 women over the past 30 years, probably more. Some I barely remember because they gave up quickly. Others fought longer but eventually moved away to escape me. But my most recent target, Melvina Chase, did something none of the others did. She documented everything. She found my previous victims. She exposed me publicly with undeniable proof, and she refused to let me gaslight her into silence. I'm writing this because I was caught, because it's part of my legal settlement, and because I'm required to warn people about what I am. I have a personality disorder. I don't have a stable sense of identity, so I try to become other people. I see someone with a life I want and I take it. Not because I hate them. I don't feel strongly enough about anyone to hate them. But because I'm empty and they're not, and I think if I can just take enough pieces of their life, maybe I'll finally feel real. It never works. I'm still empty, still pretending, still not actually a real person with real feelings and real relationships. If you're reading this and you know me, or you think you know someone like me, here are the warning signs. Someone who quickly becomes your best friend, but asks a lot of questions and shares very little about themselves. Someone who starts copying your style, interests, and mannerisms. Someone who coincidentally pursues the same opportunities you're pursuing. Someone who befriends your family and tries to become closer to them than you are. Someone who makes you feel crazy for noticing these patterns. I'm sorry to the women I've hurt. I know that's not enough. I know sorry doesn't undo decades of manipulation and theft, but it's all I have to offer. I'm in therapy now, court-ordered. I don't know if I can change. I don't know if there's anything real inside me to build on, but I'm trying. And to anyone who might have been my next target, you're safe now. Melvina Chase made sure of that. She exposed me so thoroughly that I can never do this again. For once in my life, I'm being honest. I am not a good person. I am not a real friend. I am someone you should stay far away from. This statement will remain posted for 1 year as required by my legal settlement. After that, I don't know. Maybe I'll delete it and go back to pretending. Or maybe I'll finally accept that I'm broken and stop trying to steal other people's wholeness. Dovie Marshall. The post went viral. Thousands of shares. Hundreds of comments from people sharing their own experiences with predatory friendships, identity theft, and manipulation. Several other women came forward claiming to be Dovie's victims from years past. Women I hadn't even found in my research. Dovie had destroyed far more lives than I'd known. 6 months after Dovie's public confession, my life had finally started to feel normal again. I'd rebuilt my relationships with my children. Zenobia and Royal both apologized repeatedly for letting Dovie come between us, and we'd spent months in family therapy working through the damage. I can't believe I fell for it, Zenobia said at one session. All those conversations where Dovie would subtly criticize you, make me doubt your advice, make me think you were out of touch. I should have seen it. Dovie was very good at manipulation, I said. She had 30 years of practice. You're not to blame for being manipulated by an expert. But I'm your daughter, Zenobia said. I should have trusted you over her. And now you know to be more careful about who you trust, I said. That's the lesson, not blame, wisdom. Royal had similar guilt. She made me feel like you didn't understand my career goals, like you were holding me back. But really, you were just being realistic about the challenges of administration while Dovie was telling me what I wanted to hear. Manipulation works by appealing to what we want to believe, I explained. Dovie told you that your ambitions were completely right and I was wrong. That felt good, so you believed her. It's human nature. My relationship with Homer had also improved, ironically. The shared experience of being manipulated by Dovie had given us something to bond over. I can't believe I dated that woman, Homer said at a family dinner. Every time she said she loved me, she was probably just checking date Melvina's ex-husband off her list of life-stealing tasks. Probably, I agreed. But Homer, you were a good partner to me for the years we were married. You're a good father to our children. What happened with Dovie doesn't change that. Thank you for saying that, Homer said. I've been feeling pretty stupid for not seeing through her. We all feel stupid, I said. That's what predators do, they make their victims feel stupid for trusting them. But trust isn't stupid. Manipulation is evil. There's a difference. With Dovie's stolen senior sister's charity collapsing after her exposure, I finally launched my original vision, Silver Sisters. The nonprofit focused on supporting elderly women living alone, providing companionship, practical assistance, and community connections. Within 3 months, we'd helped 47 women. We'd connected them with volunteers for grocery shopping, home maintenance, transportation to medical appointments, and regular social visits. This is what the charity was always supposed to be, I told my volunteer coordinator, Sterling Washington, at our first quarterly meeting. Not about me or Dovey or our conflict, about helping women who need support. You've created something beautiful, Melvina, Sterling said. And the women we're helping, they don't care about the drama that preceded this. They just care that someone finally sees them and values them. One of our clients, an 82-year-old woman named Artie James, told me her story at a volunteer appreciation event. I've been alone since my husband died 7 years ago, Artie said. My children live in other states. I was spending weeks without talking to anyone except cashiers at the grocery store. I was so lonely I thought about ending my life. Then Silver Sisters connected me with a volunteer who visits twice a week, Artie continued. We play cards, talk about life, and sometimes just sit together. It saved me, literally saved my life. That's why we do this work, I said, hugging her. Because everyone deserves connection. Everyone deserves to be seen and valued. Silver Sisters became my purpose, the good that came from the wreckage of Dovey's betrayal. 1 year after the wedding revelation, I received an unexpected visitor. Artie Marshall, Dovey's daughter, knocked on my door one Saturday morning. Ms. Chase, do you have a few minutes? Artie asked nervously. Of course, I said, inviting her in. We sat in my living room, and Artie looked like she was struggling with how to begin. I wanted to give you an update about my mother, Artie finally said, and to thank you. Thank me, I asked, surprised. For what? For stopping her, Artie said. For doing what I should have done years ago but didn't have the courage to do. You testified against her in court, I pointed out. That took courage. After you'd already done the hard part, Artie said. You documented everything, found her previous victims, exposed her publicly. I just confirmed what you'd already proven, but I should have stopped her earlier. I should have warned you when you first became friends with her 30 years ago. You were just a child then, I said. You can't blame yourself for your mother's actions. I'm 39 now, Artie said. I've watched her destroy women my whole life, and I told myself it wasn't my responsibility to stop her, but it was. I should have protected you and all the others. You're protecting people now, I said, by speaking out, by refusing to enable her anymore. Mom's in a residential treatment facility, Artie revealed. Intensive therapy for personality disorders, court-ordered for 2 years. How is she doing? I asked. Honestly, not well, Artie said. The therapy forces her to confront who she really is, or rather, who she isn't. She's having to accept that there's no core identity underneath all the copying and pretending. She's just empty. That must be hard, I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of compassion for Dovey's emptiness. The therapists say she'll probably never be normal, Artie continued. She'll always have difficulty with identity and relationships, but they're teaching her to recognize the urge to steal other people's lives and develop alternative coping mechanisms. Do you think she'll change? I asked. I don't know, Artie admitted. Part of me hopes she will because she's my mother, but a bigger part of me knows that even if she does change, she'll never be someone I can trust. That's a painful realization, I said. It is, Artie agreed, but it's also freeing. I'm in therapy too, working through my own issues, the guilt of being complicit, the trauma of having a parent who's essentially a predator, the challenge of building my own identity separate from her. That's important work, I said. How can I help? You already have, Artie said. By refusing to be a victim, by fighting back, by showing me that you don't have to accept abuse just because it comes from someone who claims to love you. I'm glad my experience could help you, I said. But Artie, you need to know you're not responsible for your mother's actions. You were her child. Children aren't responsible for parenting their parents. I know, Artie said. My therapist says that constantly. I'm starting to believe it. We talked for another hour. Artie shared her plans, moving to another state for a fresh start, changing her last name so she wasn't associated with Dovey anymore, building a life that was entirely her own. "I want to be nothing like her," Artie said. "I want to be real, authentic, someone people can actually trust." "You already are those things," I assured her. "You proved that by testifying, by telling the truth even when it hurt your relationship with your mother." "Thank you, Ms. Chase," Artie said as she left, "for everything, for being the one who finally stopped her, for being kind to me even though I'm her daughter, for showing me what real strength looks like." After Artie left, I sat on my porch and thought about the past year. I'd lost my best friend, or rather, I'd discovered I'd never had a best friend in the first place. 30 years of friendship revealed as manipulation and theft. But I'd gained something too: clarity, understanding of my own worth, appreciation for the people in my life who truly loved me, and the strength to fight for myself even when everyone thought I was paranoid. 2 years after the wedding revelation, I stood in front of another crowd, this time at a women's empowerment conference, speaking about predatory friendships and how to recognize them. "Friendship should build you up, not tear you down," I told the audience. "A real friend celebrates your successes, not steals them. A real friend respects your boundaries, not replaces you in your own life. If someone is copying everything about you, competing for everything you want, inserting themselves into all your relationships, that's not friendship. That's predatory behavior. And if you're experiencing this, document everything," I advised. "Save texts, record conversations if legal in your state, take screenshots, keep a journal. Because predators like Dovie Marshall count on their victims being unable to prove what's happening. Most importantly, trust your instincts," I said. "If a friendship feels wrong, if you feel like you're being replaced in your own life, you're probably not imagining it. Don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting yourself." After the speech, dozens of women approached me with their own stories of predatory friendships. Some were still in them, uncertain how to escape. Others had already escaped but were still healing from the damage. "Your story gave me courage," one woman told me. "I've been documenting my best friend's behavior for months. I thought I was crazy, but I'm not. She's doing exactly what Dovie did to you, and now I know I'm not alone." "You're not alone," I assured her. "There are more of us than you'd think, women who have been targeted by predators disguised as friends. But we're speaking out now. We're warning others. We're making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." That evening, I received an email from an unexpected source. Pearlie Thompson, Dovie's victim from 15 years ago. "Dear Melvina, I wanted to thank you for doing what I couldn't, fully exposing Dovie and stopping her permanently. For years, I've carried guilt and shame about what happened to me, about letting her steal my life and then running away instead of fighting back. But watching you fight, watching you refuse to be silenced, watching you win, it's helped me heal. It's helped me understand that I wasn't weak for being targeted. Dovie was just skilled at what she did. I've started speaking publicly about my experience too, helping other women recognize predatory friendships, teaching the warning signs, making sure no one else has to go through what we did. Your courage inspired mine. Thank you for that. With gratitude and solidarity, Pearlie." I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. This was the real victory, not the court case, not the public exposure, but the community of survivors helping each other heal and protecting others from experiencing the same trauma. Dovie had thought she'd taken my place. She'd smiled confidently, believing she'd won, believing I'd never realize what she was doing until it was too late. But her smile vanished when I revealed the truth, when I showed her and everyone else that I'd seen through her manipulations, that I'd documented everything, that I'd found her previous victims, that I'd built a case so strong she couldn't deny or escape it. She thought she could replace me, but you can't replace what's real with what's fake. You can't steal someone's life and make it yours. You can only destroy what you touch, leaving wreckage behind. And in the wreckage, survivors like me learn to rebuild, stronger, wiser, and ready to help others do the same. Dovie took 2 years of my life, but in doing so, she gave me a purpose, protecting other women from predators like her. That's a trade I can live with. What an incredible journey. Melvina exposed her predatory best friend after 30 years of manipulation. She won in court, helped Dovey's daughter escape, and turned her trauma into purpose by helping other women recognize and escape predatory friendships. This story proves that, trust your instincts. If a friendship feels wrong, it probably is. Document everything when dealing with manipulative people. Real friends build you up. Fake friends steal from you. Speaking out helps others recognize predators. You can heal from betrayal and use it to help others. The best revenge is turning your pain into purpose. If this story inspired you, please, white heavy check mark, subscribe to this channel for more empowering stories. Smash that like button. Turn on notifications for new video. Drop a comment. Have you ever had a toxic friendship? How did you handle it? What warning signs of predatory friendship resonated with you? Where are you watching from? United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Jamaica, South Africa, Australia, Trinidad, Philippines? Let me know. Remember, real friends celebrate your success, not steal it. Real friends respect your boundaries, not replace you. If someone is systematically copying your life, trust your instincts and protect yourself. You're not paranoid, you're observant. Thank you for following Melvina's powerful journey from victim to victor to advocate. May her story help you recognize predatory behavior and protect yourself and others. Until the next story, stay vigilant, trust yourself, and surround yourself with people who genuinely love you.